And Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Don't worry, retire happy and work with us. Well, great day to you and welcome for our holiday party. My buddy Chuck Wright. Chuck, I want to thank you for my Christmas present. That
You're very
is amazing.
welcome. I'm surprised you don't have it on.
It's right here. It's a little too warm, you know.
I didn't wear mine. I didn't want to look like the Bobbsey twins.
I got to tell you, Chuck gave me a Navy flight jacket, and I am so thrilled. And I thank you so much.
Better known as a letter jacket for aviators.
That's right. That's right. And I'm so thrilled. Hey, today we have a very special guest who is on enough now that we can make him a co-host. Welcome, Dr. Stephen Holt, the Chief Medical Officer for Vision 17 over the state of Texas. He is the former director of our North Texas Regional VA healthcare system. One of the most knowledgeable men, Air Force Bird Colonel, so you're a veteran, also a medical doctor, and it's unusual to have an Air Force medical doctor administrator of any of the big VAs. That's kind of an unusual combination. And we're very appreciative for all you did for our VA in North Texas and what you're continuing to do. Dr. Holt, one of the things I wanted to just talk about real quick is this is the holiday season. And Chuck, we just finished Wreaths Across America. That was tremendous. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of Christmas things going on. So if you're alone and you're feeling left out, check in with your VA. Dr. Holt, you were telling us that many of the VAs have retirement nursing homes.
Yep. Most of them have a retirement nursing home. We call it a community living center. And it's really, I ask you if you have friends or family in those to please reach out to them at this holiday season. We try to do a lot for the veterans that are staying there. And it's just really important. It's very uplifting. And COVID, has kind of curtailed a lot of the celebrations and things we do over the years because of that. So reach out, say hello, do a Zoom meeting if you can't do an in-face visit. Do check and see what the visitation policies are before you show up. I don't want you to show up to a nursing home, one of the VA nursing homes, and find out you can't do a face-to-face visit with the person you came. So,
hey, I think that's important. And Chuck, we're not going to be going. I'm not going to the great football game, the Lockheed Martin, because of the weather's so bad. But I'm going to miss that. I'm going to watch it on TV.
Air Force and Baylor will be squaring off. It will have already happened by the time this is broadcast, but they will be squaring off in Fort Worth, and that'll be a great game. And one thing I wanted to follow up on what Dr. Holt just said. This is and can be. It's a wonderful time of the year. It's a great time of the year. But one of the things that I ask is for a lot of people, it's the worst time of the year. It highlights for a lot of people that they don't have a lot of people in their lives. And so one of the things that I would ask is, I think it's a great idea. We have multiple funded by the state of Texas nursing homes in Texas for our veterans. And we're going to actually have a program on that next year that's going to highlight some of the Texas programs that are specific just to the state of Texas. The VA has some great programs, and I know and I don't want to go too far off on a tangent here, but Dr. Holt was part of turning around the Dallas VA and turning it into a first-rate facility. But there are a ton of veterans out there. Reach out to them, be it on Facebook. If you've got a buddy you haven't talked to in a while, reach out and make a phone call, because you really don't know what people are going through right now, and it is. And we used to always, I'd mentioned I grew up in San Antonio, and we'd always take in 2 to 4 of the recruits from Lackland for Christmas dinner, and that had become kind of a tradition. A little harder to do here, but reach out to the DFW USO, reach out to the Joint Reserve Base if you don't have a specific veteran in mind, because you've got people that are, quite frankly, sitting around their barracks on Christmas Day, and that's all they're doing. So.
And one of the other things, if you're feeling bad and you're feeling blue and you're feeling really bad, 988, that's the new number for the emergency hotline. Press 1 if you're a veteran, and you can have somebody instantly to talk to 24/7, correct?
absolutely. And the same thing, if you know somebody's having problems, you can call that number and say, X is having problems, can you please reach out to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And we just had, you and I, Dr. Holt, did a deal with Indira Subramanian talking about the care, where compassionate care, where you contact people. Go to VA volunteers.gov. Volunteer.va.gov. Great opportunities. Now, let's talk about within the VA, though, Dr. Holt. You and I have been talking about the PACT Act, and that's the greatest expansion of VA healthcare system in our history, as well as eligibility. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us about it.
Sure. So let me just preface this by saying 2022 was a fabulous year for veterans in terms of healthcare. Never a year like it before. The PACT Act in particular is the largest expansion of eligibility and care for veterans ever in the history of VA. And what it did is it opened the window for veterans. If you served in specific areas at specific times that are in the PACT Act, then you are eligible for VA health care. And you don't have to have a service-connected disability. You are eligible for VA health care. And serving in a lot of those areas, some of the things that would be associated with VA care, service-connected, are things like hypertension. And, you think a third of the people have hypertension. So the PACT Act is really fabulous. It has expanded this. It also opens the windows for people to file their VA claim, which is independent of health care per se. And if you file a claim by August 10th of 2023, they will back pay you to August 10th of 2022 if you're found to have a disability that rates compensation and pension. So this is a great opportunity. And for instance, we had a PACT Act event at the Dallas VA, and we had over 1,000 veterans show up in one day for that. Over 350 applications for new health care, and over 400 people were following claims, because we had claims representatives there to help them file disability claims as well. So the PACT Act is an incredible thing, recognizing the importance and the appreciation of veterans. And I urge you, there's also under the PACT Act, there's survivors benefits. So if you had a loved one who was a veteran who served in those areas, you may be, if you're a spouse or a dependent child, you may be eligible for survivors benefits as well.
That's important, because Chuck, you and I know James Henderson, who's head of the Dallas County Veterans Service team that does all the work to get people signed up. In the state of Texas, every county has a county veteran service officer that does all of this. They're VA accredited rep. And then around the nation, you've got American Legion, VFW. Many organizations have this. You don't have to go through an attorney and spend a lot of money. I got to ask though one question. Is this, and pardon my ignorance, does this PACT Act cover also this things we're seeing for this Camp Lejeune?
Yes. Camp Lejeune is covered under that. Certain exposures, radiation exposures to the atomic testing in the Pacific, et cetera. And so it covers Agent Orange, broadens the areas of Agent Orange that it's a presumptive as well. So it covers a lot of things in the Southwest Asia and South Pacific areas, that as well as I said, the Middle East. For those of us who are older, call it the Middle East versus Southwest Asia, or South, But anyway, you could go to the website and you can see what geographical areas are covered and what time frames. And if you fit one of those, you are eligible for VA care, even if you cannot prove a disability or injury related service. You're eligible for VA care.
Well, that's hugely important. Let's say, for instance, you have kidney problems, you've got diabetes, and you have to end up, going to dialysis. Thank you. VA, the dialysis is for free.
Exactly. If you're going through Medicare, you have to pay a $50 copay with each treatment. And on average, you get 3 treatments a week. VA, whether we do it in-house or we pay for it in the community, it is free. There is no copay for that dialysis. So.
And for Vietnam veterans, that can be huge, because there's a lot of guys who, smoked, ate too much, whatever. there's so much in terms of medical problems for our generation as they're getting in there. A lot of it because of where we were over there, and they're taking that into account. So this is essential information. If you want to know more and you're confused about how do I get in, who do I contact, you can give me a call, 214-502-4600. I'll see what I can do to hook you up with somebody that can help you get into that. This is really, really essential. It's important, and it's important for your spouse as well. Now, here's another thought that I was going to ask you, Dr. Holt. With this, if a veteran then became totally disabled, and then they would be qualified for the aid and attendance pension.
Exactly. Well, even for lesser than fully disabled, they would be qualified depending on the degree of disability that they're rated through the Veterans Benefit Administration. So that can go anywhere from 0 up to 100. And at 100, the pension is over $3,000 a month tax-free, just to put that in perspective. And let me back up 1 second. We estimate that the PACT Act could affect up to 4 million veterans. There are only about 11.5 million living in the U.S., so up to 4 million could be eligible for health care and other benefits under the PACT Act that weren't previously.
And Chuck, this would pertain because you were in Iraq? You were in that theater? No.
No, I was not. I'm just a Cold War veteran.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not part of y'all's generation. I just want to make that clear for all of our listeners. I'm the young guy here. I kind of like it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were into the Desert Storm and all that.
No.
You didn't participate in that.
No, I was kind of got sandwiched in the middle of that, and I tried to go back in, and by the time that process got started, everything was already over.
I'm Vietnam. I'm Blue Water Navy. And I don't qualify for the Agent Orange because we never even got close to South Vietnam. The closest we got was to North Vietnam to drop bombs on them. And that was not a bad joke. Anyway, what I'm saying is, though, if you look, there were a lot of ships that did dock in Cam Ranh Bay and in the Mekong Delta. They were in there throughout Southeast Asia. There were also things that went in during Desert Storm.
So the long-winded point that we're trying to make, and I think it's a great point that Dr. Holt made, and I wanted you to clarify, this adds 4 million veterans to those that were not already covered, correct? Did I say that correctly?
Correct. Yes.
So you're talking about adding more than a third of all the veterans in America if the number is 11 million, and I'll take your word for it. Sounds about right. Although that in and of itself, and sorry to go off on another tangent, which I'm notorious for, but to think that we only have 11 million veterans in America anymore, it's almost a scary number how few have served. But again, off on one of my tangents. But if you have questions, go to the VA website, pull up the PACT Act, start to read through it. In the state of Texas, if you have not already registered for the VA, it costs you nothing. Contact an accredited VA representative, and you can find those. Every county in Texas, pretty much every county, has a designated county veteran service officer that is funded by the county. So you've got that. Check into that. Have them help you find out. Disabled American Veterans is another organization, the VFW and the American Legion. Make sure you're dealing with an accredited veteran service officer. They can actually directly get you plugged in at no cost to the VA system. And then you can start to work backwards and figure out what benefits you have, because for a lot of our listeners, our veteran listeners, they don't realize they're eligible for benefits.
Exactly. All right, we got about 30 seconds before we go to a break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about this, because I don't want to see you wasting money going through a legal battle or with attorneys that you don't have to. There are VA accredited reps that will help you. So this is Chuck Wright and Jim Blythe with Dr. Stephen Holt. We're here for you today for the holiday season.
We'll come back for you.
Hang on 1 second.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, you got Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy, Chuck Wright, Marine Corps, and the one and only Dr. Stephen Holt.
And Dr. Holt, you were trying to make a point before Jim so rudely interrupted you with the break.
Well, no, I want to tag on to what you said, Chuck, that it's very important to understand under the PACT Act, if you're eligible for health care under the PACT Act, you don't need to go through a VSO. You don't need to file a claim. You just have to register for health care and show, through your DD 214 that you were in one of those areas during the specific time frames. The process, and you're eligible for health care. You start health care right away. You don't have to wait several months for your claim to be looked at inside if you have a service-connected disability.
So in that scenario, Dr. Holt, talk about how would a vet, say, like myself, who, I happened to stumble into the wrong burn pit in the Philippines when we were deployed there. How would one go about registering, and talk a little bit about how that's different, or it sounds like it's a little bit simpler. How would one register? So
the veteran service officers, the claims can link you directly. But basically, you go to registration at any VA, which can also, I believe, be done online, and you put in your information. They validate your information that you meet the criteria. That is, you served in one of those areas during the time frame. And then you're registered into healthcare, and you get assigned a provider and get set up with an initial appointment. And let me say something important about this too. Let's say you're a college student, okay? You're going back to school, etc., and you don't have health insurance. This is important because an ER visit alone could set you back $5,000 to $10,000. Whereas if you're registered for VA health care and you've gone and been seen once, you're covered for that, okay? That's very important. So that even if you don't intend to use VA health care regularly or as your primary, if you don't have health insurance, you're young, healthy, or in your late 20s, 30s, it's important. It acts as a health care insurance policy for you.
One of the points that you made to me, because I have Medicare, you told me, hey, Jim, this does not impact your Medicare. This is not going to change your doctors. You want to stay with your Medicare, stay with your doctors. You can also have the VA health care. You can have both. You can double dip, I guess.
Yes. And let me clarify something, because I know I'm going to get a notes about health. It is not health care insurance, but it does cover you for health care, emergency health care. If otherwise, you have to be seen within the VA. Now, depending on your level of disability, if they can't see you timely, they'll send you to community and pay for that. But they don't pay for you to go see a private doctor in the community for a non-emergency.
These benefits are so important, and you have been in the cutting edge of the changes that have been made, such as the telehealth, to be able to reach out to our rural communities and reach out to people who maybe it isn't easy to get in to see a doctor. You can use telehealth. There's a lot of things that you guys have been doing to really improve our VA healthcare.
Yeah, we worked very hard to get people in rural areas access. And with COVID, it really accelerated. We were well positioned, fortunately, because going into COVID, every primary care doctor had to be trained in doing the telehealth. So we were well positioned to go into this and provide care virtually. And we were basically one of the leaders, if not the leader, in the whole arena of telehealth and virtual care.
I think that's hugely important, because a lot of people need that, want that, and it's going to help them a great deal. One of the other things that I want to make a point, because you are a medical doctor, 70% of all of the medical doctors, technicians, etc., in the United States, at some point in time, train in the VA.
Yes, this is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. And let me back up to the telehealth thing. We in the military have been doing that for a long time. So as a flight surgeon in the Air Force, I would deal with patients hundreds of miles downrange in terms of what they needed, how they needed to be packaged up, et cetera, to be either put on a helicopter or put on a plane and then flown to a higher level of care. So, this is very similar, except much more sophisticated because of technology than what we were doing to support operations in the field 25 years ago.
That's important. I am so thrilled to have you on board. We're going to continue the conversation and talk more a little bit about holidays gone past. I'm going to ask you guys in this next segment, what was your favorite holiday when you were in the military? What was your favorite Christmas? And that's going to
be an excellent conversation. But one of the things that we are almost always neglect on is we want to thank the people who are actually making this possible. Nathaniel, our trustworthy operator, owner of Ascend Podcast, but expanding that into Ascend Media. But if we found out, we have to find a new name for that. And the lovely Mrs. Jim Blythe, Diane Blythe, making this happen for us. Thank you both so much.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Guys, what a beautiful day, but man, let me tell you, the weather's getting ready to go deep north, not south. It's going to get cold outside. So take care, take cover, and if you have a buddy that needs some help, let him know. Hey, I'm here for you. This is the holiday season. We want to make it great for everybody and help out every veteran. A quick note, I want to talk about COVID-19, then I want to talk about Christmases in the past. COVID, there is a new strain of this going around, Dr. Holt, and there's been a huge increase in hospital visits. Is this a dangerous COVID, or can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it appears to be very infectious. It appears to, it's spreading, the percentage of cases is growing quickly, and as we look, I get a briefing every morning on the situation across the country. I can't emphasize enough, unfortunately the holidays are super spreader events because people come together from all over. They have parties, they spend a long time together. Just try to be careful, try to keep distance. It's hard when you have family at home, and I understand that. But in other events, try to keep your social distancing. If you're starting to feel sick, get checked. Get a COVID test right away. Many insurance companies cover that, and you can get that at any pharmacy. And if you have COVID, please stay at home and isolate until you're better.
So you're basically telling me it's okay for me to go bah humbug for the rest of the holidays.
Yeah, and I hate to put the kibosh, on the holidays and say you should wear a mask at all your gatherings and everything. You should. Let me just say that. But, I can't emphasize enough, be careful. At least don't do really stupid things, okay?
Well,
that I can say.
Weren't a lot of guys gargling with scotch during the Marine Corps ball?
Absolutely. I've always found, and although I have heard in this part of the world, tequila actually works a little bit better.
Oh, it is a higher proof. Well, I'm a rum guy, but I don't do that anymore. Steve, tell me, in your Air Force experience, and you were a career Air Force doctor, pick one Christmas that was really phenomenal that you remember and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, probably the one that my wife and family and I enjoyed the most was when we were in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the 90th Strategic Missile Wing. I was the chief flight surgeon there. And we just really like Wyoming. We really liked the cold weather. And we would go out, cut our own tree, we'd have celebration. We had great military family around because it was a close-knit community, et cetera. And it was just a really fabulous Christmas. And I'll say the second one in the VA was one of the Christmases I had up in North Chicago, because I was the director of the hospital up there. Was combined Navy, VA, and we had the honor and privilege of providing all the medical care at the Navy basic, the only Navy basic training still there at Great Lakes, and just the way the Navy treated us was just so nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Marine, what was your best Christmas holiday?
So I got a couple of fun ones when I was in the Marine Corps, but I'm going to share one from when I was, I want to say 5 or 6 years old. My dad was with the U2 program at the time. And he was a logistical enlisted man. He handled the paperwork and pushed the parts through. It wasn't like he did anything fancy or flew. We were stationed at Edwards, which is where the guys from the Right Stuff flew, out in the middle of the Mojave Desert. At one point in time, they didn't even have a runway there. They literally landed on the dry bed lake. And he showed up at my mom's school. She was a school teacher at the there at Edwards in the elementary school, and said, "Honey, I came by to say goodbye. I've got to go to Japan for a while." And he couldn't tell her why he was going. She goes, "Well, how long are you going to be gone?" He goes, "I have no idea." And this deployment of his, unaccompanied, lasted through Christmas. So we're trying to set up Christmas. We're trying to put the tree up, and it won't stay up. And we wound up, I swear to God, with clothesline. For those of you old school who really are into climate change, we used to use clotheslines to hang clothes up on to dry. So if you're really into climate change, get a clothesline. It's amazing how much energy a dryer burns. But I go off on a political rant there. I am tying the top of the tree, because I was small enough to get on top of the ladder, and tying it to that old style curtain rod. Those white metal curtain rods that are just completely unstable. We've got the Christmas tree stand that normally worked great, wouldn't hold it up, so we had gotten a coffee can, filled it with sand from the backyard, and our backyard was in fact sand. It looked like the moonscape. We had no grass. We were in the middle of the desert. And we've got the stump of the tree pushed down in it, and we're trying to get this. And it wound up being, and we can still to this day, the only funnier story we tell is when my brother, Uncle Don, who is a colonel in the Marine Corps now, and we have the video of this, I should put it up on our YouTube channel, is about 4 sheets to the wind, 3 sheets to the wind. I don't know. Navy guys, how many sheets do we need to be into the wind? I'm not sure about that, but you can imagine where Uncle Don is, and he starts singing old country songs at the top of his lungs and gets everybody to start singing. And we had the entire table, and we were playing Mexican Train or Skip-O. Mexican Train is a dominoes game that's great, great fun, or Skip-O, or one of these family games. We had everybody in stitches. So those are our 2 great stories. Both of them occurred right around Christmas time. But the Edwards, California it's still one of my mom's fondest memories. I think she wasn't real happy when my dad finally got back. It's funny now. It wasn't funny.
Well, mine's a little bit different. I was on the USS Hancock.
Wait. Can you tell this?
Yeah.
We don't need any R&R and stories on this show.
No.
Okay,
No.
just checking.
We were on the line. We were on Dixie Station, which was in the Gulf of Tonkin, and we were bombing North Vietnam.
Off the coast of North Vietnam.
Off the coast of North Vietnam. We had been out there about 30 days, and it was coming up, and it was Christmas Eve. And all of a sudden, they cleared the flight deck. We pulled everything down into the hangar bay we could, and everybody was looking at each other and going, "What's going on?" And about that time, here come a bunch of big helicopters, and on board came Bob Hope.
Oh, wow.
And the whole Bob Hope entourage, yeah. And they were so excited to be out there with us. Well, we didn't know why, but, till I talked to one of their camera crew, and the guy said, "Oh, man, we're just thrilled to be here with you guys, and it's safe, and there's no mortars." And I go, "Oh, that's right. You've been in country. You've been performing where this and a rocket attack could have done a lot of damage." So we got to watch, this great show. We set it up, and it was on the hangar deck. We ended up having a great, great time. It was so wonderful. And when they sang Silent Night, there wasn't a dry eye on that aircraft carrier. And it was tremendous. Well, then Bob Hope had brought a Catholic bishop with him. And so they were going to do the midnight mass, and they did the midnight mass on the ship. And the bishop came on and he said, any sailor, regardless of your religion, if you would like to participate in the Eucharist, in the Catholic communion, you're welcome to for the blessing. So we're in there. They put on a great service. Bob Hope is on the front row. He's on the corner seat. There was an aisle down the middle. And so the bishop and two other chaplains were basically doing the Eucharist, which is they took a chalice with wine and they dipped a wafer and they gave you a blessing and they put it in your mouth. And so I'm in line, and then in front of me in the line is a guy that had been in the Navy back since they were using sails and oars. He was a first-class boatswain mate, and I mean, that guy was tough, and he'd been around. So this sets the picture, and he steps up, and the bishop dips the wafer, puts it in his mouth, and the guy, it comes out so loud, and everybody was laying on the floor. Oh my God, this is real wine. And Bob Hope just doubled up, and everybody in his entourage was laughing, and we were all laughing, and we kind of looked around at each other and go, that's great. And so the next morning, and in our cruise book, Bob Hope went up on the flight deck and put on one of the baseball caps from my squadron, the Saints, and was driving golf balls at the destroyer that was cruising alongside of us as an escort. And then they went from there, they went back to the Philippines, and they went back home on Christmas Day. But I got to meet Bob Hope and all of the people that were with him, and it was absolutely, I think, best Christmas. And
I would love to have a story like that. I grew up watching the replays of the Bob Hope shows, sponsored by the USO. I am very proud to be a member of the DFW USO's board right now. It is an incredible organization, but the work that he did, his passion for our people that dates all the way back to World War II. I mean, this is such a great American. He never got paid for any of this. He would not take money for this. He did this because it was how he gave back. What a great American. I'm sorry, again, I'm off on another one of my strange tangents, but this is an attitude we need to get back to in this country. It's, you know, and it's, I'm going to quote JFK. I barely remember him being assassinated. I remember in that same Edwards Elementary School, them coming into, we were in the cafeteria at the time, as a matter of fact, when they made the announcement having lunch. But his incredible quote, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And it's one of the things, and Dr. Holt, not to blow too much smoke, but the job that you have done with the VA, the job that your predecessor, Jeff Milligan, who is a friend of ours, has done, and our best wishes to Jeff. I know his health has not been good, and we're praying for you, my friend, if you're listening. And yeah, you guys were drawing a check, but you could have made a lot more money had you left government service and left the Air Force and gone into private practice. So you still are making, and I don't begrudge anybody earning a living to take care of your family, but the work that y'all are doing is really terrific. It is part of the backbone, as Jim mentioned earlier. 70% of the medical people in our country right now get at least some of their training through the VA system. And I gotta wonder, in an era when we're losing top flight medical people left and right, and the field is shrinking and the demand is growing, why this part of the VA is not being expanded. And it's again another one of my tangential observations.
Under the PACT Act, aren't you expanding the personnel within the VA healthcare system? Aren't you adding more people?
They are, and in fact, the PACT Act, is, if I recall correctly, specifies 15 new facilities, 2 of which in Texas, by the way, are authorized by that act to be added. There's also the budget that's going through, which is not part of the PACT Act, but is going through through Congress right now, should be done by the end of the year, will increase the medical budget by 25%, realizing the tremendous growth we expect to see with the PACT Act of people using the VA. And I just want to say, I hope to see all our fellow veterans at a VA somewhere. I get 100% of my health care at the VA, and I've told the story before, but I firmly believe that I am here and healthy because of VA health care, because I was very sick at the time I enrolled in VA health care and didn't realize it as a doctor, interestingly enough. So I really emphasize to you, the VA health care, has been numerous studies that show it's as good as or better than the private sector. We have transparency the private sector doesn't have, and we have congressional oversight that the private sector doesn't have. So, please, take advantage of what you've earned and what the country has decided to provide to you in appreciation for your service and your dedication.
And one of the things I want to make a point, you guys are delivering more and you're doing better. Yes, mistakes get made, but boy, let me tell you, some of the horror stories I hear about civilian hospitals and civilian situations, you're focused on being better, and when there is a problem, you work to fix it. You guys have been rated as the top, if not better than the top, against all the civilian hospitals in the United States.
Yeah, and we are the largest healthcare system.
That's amazing when you think about it. There's not a healthcare system that is absolutely nationwide. All right, we're going to be right back to wrap this program up this holiday season. We're here for you. We'd like to hear from you. Send us a note. Just join us on the Veterans Impact Show. Subscribe to YouTube, right, Diane? And, be a part of this. Join in, plug in, and be a part. We're here for you. So this is Jim Blythe, Chuck Wright, and Dr. Stephen Holt. We'll be right back after these words. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, guys, I'm about to bring this program back into the dock. Our final segment, and this will really be our last program for the year, because we're going to do a replay for the New Year's program. And so this is the last chance that we have to say goodbye 2022 and hello 2023. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, we'll see everybody again next year. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have some incredible guests lined up. We have a great guest today. We love having Dr. Holt on the show. We've had him frequently. We're considering giving him co-host status if we can get the VA to pony up and be an official sponsor, because obviously I failed miserably getting Dunkin' Donuts on board, and we gave them lots of free airtime.
Well, Dr. Holt, one of the things you and I talked about is there are divisions, the state regional healthcare system, and within each region there is a center of excellence which is known for doing research, correct?
Correct. There are 6 of them. There are 18 regions, but there are 6 centers of excellence, yes.
And you and I talked about, let's go through and talk with each of those centers of excellence and find out what they're doing and find out what they need, because they may need veterans for clinical trials. We're going to talk about how people could participate in that as well. And how could veterans participate with other veterans within their own VA healthcare system?
Now, Jim doesn't know this fun fact, but we're going to talk about centers of excellence. We have one right down the street in Waco, Texas.
That's right.
And I have done a tour of it, and I have to say, Dr. Holt, they do some incredible work.
And they report to me.
And they report to you, so there you go. Well, and I can't remember the doctor who runs it.
Dr. Richard Symes.
Yeah.
Yes, great gentleman, but the vision, and I say this because one of the things that a lot of our veterans still struggle with is TBI, brain injury type of work. I've also toured the Center for Brain Excellence, which is attached to the Southwestern Medical Facility. And there's all this incredible work that's going on, and they're at the cutting edge of it. Some of the stuff they're doing was it was fascinating to me.
I tell you what, we'll do.
You brought up Centers of Excellence.
I know.
You didn't know that I
Let's
knew
you and I
about
go
one of
down
them.
there, and we'll videotape in there
Yeah.
and show him that giant MRI and all that equipment.
Yep.
I think it's important that everybody know what the VA healthcare system is doing. So I like to close. The number one thing is happy holidays. We're so thrilled to have you on board. God bless you and keep you safe throughout these holidays and with the winter storms that are coming through. Also, I want to say a quick prayer. Dear God, we thank you for our active duty military around the world. Keep them safe during the holidays. Guide them and direct them and give them wisdom. Thank you for protecting them. Thank you for protecting their family. Thank you for looking after our veterans who contribute so much to the community. Thank you, dear God, for all you do. In your name, we say amen. And thank you for this wonderful holiday season. Steve, thank you for being on board with us today. I know you're going to have a ball this holiday.
Thanks for inviting me, as always.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to become the number 3. I'll train you and you take over. And Chuck, we've got so much to offer for 2023 that we want you to know about. The Centers of Excellence, the other things that are going on, recruiting. There is a time right now where they can get huge bonuses for signing up and a start in life, a chance to pay for college. Dr. Holt, the military paid for your medical training, didn't they?
They did. I went to the Armed Forces School of Medicine in Bethesda, Maryland.
Wow. And that's where the Navy's big hospital of Bethesda is, right?
Walter Reed.
Yep.
Yeah. See,
Walter Reed and National Naval.
there
we go. Didn't know that.
I think if you'd have been a Marine, that's a better looking uniform. Navy's uniform's a little better. Air Force is, yeah.
Jim's uniform took a big upgrade when he put on that letter jacket. For
Boy,
aviators.
that is no joke. Thanks you again, Chuck Wright. Thank you so much for all you do for veterans and being part of the Texas Veterans Commission. Thank you for what you do there. Dr. Holt, thank you for running the medical for the state of Texas. You want to know more? Give me a call, 214-502-4600. Send me an email, jim.blight@fairwaymc.com. We're here for you. We're here to help you. We're also here. Chuck is into retirement. I'm into working with people and seniors. I'm a certified senior advisor. We're here to help you build a roadmap to the future that's going to take care of you and your family. So give us a call. We're here. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. A very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you. In His name, amen. This is the Veterans Impact Show.